Good morning. This is the MWR DOD Vacationing with Discounts. My name is Michelle DeVito, and I'm with Family Programs. We're very pleased that so many of you could join us. We know there was a lot of disappointment in March when we had to postpone the seminar, but we've figured out new ways to do presentations and to connect with you all. So we're going to be doing this particular seminar via DCS. In the future, we'll probably be using this medium more, depending on how things go and what our future looks like with respect to seminars. Just a couple of admin notes. Please make sure that you mute your microphone. Over on the right-hand side, most of you are very familiar with this platform. There is a chat box. Please, if you have questions or you want clarification, please go ahead and just type that question or that request for clarification in that chat box, and then we'll circle back around and we will answer those questions. So without further ado, let's get started. So the purpose of the DOD Vacationing with Discounts seminar is just to let you all know some of the different programs that are out there that are available to you as a Department of Defense civilian, or in some cases a military retiree. And we're going to go over different programs. We're going to go over different categories. We're going to be looking throughout the entire program of DOD vacationing and those corresponding discounts. One of the first things that we want to do is we want to talk about the different categories of travelers or users or patrons. And you can see on the slide that we've broken that into 3 different categories. And one of those categories has some new changes that have taken place. But we have military. And when we look at military categories, we're looking at the active duty service members. We're looking at reserve, National Guard, and also the retirees. So as we go through our presentation today, that's when we say military, that's what we'll be looking at. There are some programs that break that down a little bit more and make a distinction between retired and active duty, but we'll note those for you and let you know if there is a difference in that particular category. Department of Defense civilians, that is all of your appropriated fund civilian employees as well as non-appropriated fund civilians. And then included in that category are retired civilian employees. And that's very important because a lot of us are going to fall into that particular category. There's a new category of travelers that just came into being on the 1st of January. And that is the travelers that fall under the Veterans Equal Access Act. So January 1st, there was a change made to the ability for a number of different veterans to utilize MWR services. Now, that category is defined, as you can see here on the bottom portion. This is where we had the change. And they're now included, those veterans are now included as patrons, eligible patrons for MWR services. Those are veterans that have a service-connected disability. In the past, if you are a veteran, you remember that there was a distinction made and you had to have a certain percentage of service-connected disability. That was changed January 1st, and now it is 1% to 99% disability, which is allowed in this program. Before, 100% was always permitted to utilize those services, but that change took place on the 1st of January of this year. So we have one person, I think, that's trying to get in. I'll just let them know that we are taking care of that. So as we go forward, those are going to be our different categories that we're going to look at when we discuss eligible patrons for different DOD facilities, whether it's lodging or whether it's campgrounds or whether it's some of the ITR programs. So when we look, again, we're going to break it down a little bit more so we just make things very clear. When we look at vacation arrangements, we've broken it down into 3 different categories: the travel, the lodging, and event or adventure ticketing. So we're going to be looking at those 3 components, and we're going to be looking at how the different programs that are available through the DOD discount for vacationing, how they impact that. We discussed travel. I think we're pretty familiar with the different modes of travel. Your personal vehicle, commercial airplanes, trains, and then we've put under travel, American Forces Travel Program, which is a new program that has been initiated to assist DOD travelers with making different arrangements at a discount. And we'll go into that just a little bit later. At this point in time, I will note that that particular program is open only to active duty military, members of the Reserve Component, National Guard. So we'll talk a little bit more about what some of those different categories are. So I'm just going to pause now and ask if we have any questions. If you have questions, please go ahead and type them in the chat box. One of the major parts of the program we're going to be talking about today and getting you familiar with are the DOD lodging options. DOD lodging is a very complicated program. There are lots of different options, there are lots of different programs, and of course each service has their own program. So when we talk about DOD lodging options, the first one that we think of are the service-specific lodging. So depending on whether you have utilized any of these or you're familiar with them, each of the different services has a specific lodging program that they have primarily for the use of their active duty members. And that specific lodging is really used for primarily for PCS, transitioning in and out of a community, or TDY. They do offer space available for leisure travel, and each of the programs has a little bit of a different criteria and programs. So if you're looking to utilize those, then I would suggest that you just check in on their pages to see exactly what their requirements are. We'll talk a little bit later about something that we've done at MWR to make that easier. The Armed Forces Recreation Centers, I think many people are familiar with those. Those are resort type facilities. We have them stateside, have them in Korea and Germany. There is one that is in Hawaii, and of course there's the Disney Resort as well. And those are also available to a large portion of our community. And if you look, I've shown you below each one of the different lodging options what the different categories are that are entitled to utilize those programs. So I think that makes it a little bit clearer and a little bit easier. Continuing with the DOD lodging options, there are also, in addition to the service and to the AFRC recreational areas, there are MWR recreation lodging facilities available. We happen to have one on our installation. The Buckeye Lodge is actually an MWR recreation lodge. And those individuals that can utilize those particular programs are listed below. And again, this is one of the categories that has changed as of January 1st, with veterans with service-connected disabilities and families being entitled to use those. Oh, and thank you, Francis, for your question. We're probably not going to do a demo. We can't utilize live internet connectivity for this particular program, but if you give me a call, I'd be glad to walk you through some of them, and we'll talk about some of the different websites. Rural welfare and recreation campsites are also available, and they're scattered across the country as well as in Europe, and so we'll talk about those as well. When we look at commercial lodging options, of course, you've got all kinds of different types and brands of commercial lodging. I would encourage you, if you've not utilized any kind of discount program with those commercial lodging companies, please go ahead and do that and check and see what they have and what they offer. We have another webpage that we're highlighting today, and this is the American Forces Travel. This is a DOD contracted website. It is part of Priceline. And right now, as I said, it's open to military, active duty, and retired. My understanding is they're looking at expanding that program, which would be fantastic for all the rest of us. I'd love to. I will put that video up at the end. And we'll be looking at that just a little bit more. That third portion of the adventure and travel is this particular aspect. When we looked at traveling, we talked about travel, we talked about lodging, and then we talked about adventure ticketing. We're going to highlight today the MWR Information Ticketing and Reservation Program. We do want to make sure that you know that any installation that you go to also has a ticketing program. They call them by different names depending on the service. But if you look for MWR and for information on travel, you'll be able to connect with that ITR or that ITS wherever you are in your travels during your future vacations. When we look at MWR, we look at local attractions, we're looking at nationwide attractions, and we're also looking at worldwide attractions. And some of the traveling that we'll be doing will actually incorporate some of the worldwide attraction access with GoPass. Since there was a question, I do want to let you know that the last slide of this slide deck will have the links available for the different web pages that we've been highlighting. So you'll be able to see what those web pages are if you're interested in exploring them some more. So the first vacation we're going to take a look at is we're going to go to Hawaii. And the two other presenters that are with me, Tammy and Stephanie, are going to be walking you through the different vacations that we've planned. Tammy and Stephanie are with the ITR staff. I'm sure a number of you are familiar. You've either spoken with them or visited them in the ITR office there in Building 20. So, Tammy, I believe the first vacation is yours. So let's hear about going to Hawaii.
Thank you, Michelle. You're correct. I did choose Hawaii. If you look at the general public, those are just your normal prices that you can pull up anywhere. That is not including the tax. Remember, if you go through us or you do a DOD, you're not going to pay the tax. So that's an added savings on top of what we're going to save here. For the airfare for DOD, I did use the travel, Veterans Travel Resources. Price was just about the same. I did a family of 4, 2 children, 2 adults. The lodging, I used the Helcoa Hotel, which is on the military base, and you can see there's quite a big savings difference between if you were civilian, general public, setting up hotel reservations as opposed to going through DOD. And then the Go Pass is actually like a city pass. You can pick up to 7 venues, and there's some that are even bigger. And it's things like tours to the chocolate factory, the Pearl Harbor tour, as well as some of the palaces and beach tours that they have. There's even snorkeling, swimming with dolphins, or stingrays. So that is all included into that Go Pass. You just select the ones that you want to do. And the savings actually came up to $2,085 compared to doing it as general public or doing it as a DOD employee or military.
So I'm just going to pause here for a moment so that if you all have any questions for Tammy, that you have a chance to type them over in the chat box. Tammy, what are some of the other savings that go along with that? Do I remember correctly that this is at the Halikoa, and as a result of being at the Halikoa, that the parking is also discounted?
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned it because I completely forgot. So parking as general public is $49. For DOD, it's $14.
Halikoa?
Yes.
Perfect. So Tammy, I see a question over on the right, which is reference the Go Pass. Maybe we want to talk to that one again. I think that is one of those programs that we have that sometimes people aren't familiar with, the breadth of what is available through the Go Pass.
Okay. So a Go Pass is a pass that you can purchase for a specific city. In this case, we did I don't think it was Waikiki is what it came up, or it might have just came up as a Hawaiian Pass. And it lists all the different venues available in that city. And you can choose anywhere from 3 venues and do a small package to up to, like I did 7 venues that you could choose from. And that price is for a total of 4 people. So when you're looking at the DOD price of $1,100, that is 4 people. And like I said, there's a list, and it's really handy to actually go to Go Pass or City Pass website and take a look at all the different venues they offer for each city that you're looking at. Hawaii actually had something like 20 different venues that I could choose.
And then we have another question related to your trip, which is reference to Halikoa being open to DOD civilians and retirees, and the amount of time it takes to get reservations.
Reservations right now, you want to 6 months to a year in advance right now because of everything that's going on. But they normally say about 3 or 4 months. But with the self-quarantine for 2 weeks before you can even do anything, you want to make those well in advance. And it is open to retirees, DOD retirees, active duty, DOD employees. So the disabled veterans, I have to confirm if they open that up completely or if they went to 50% instead of the 100%.
And it looks like we have a question from Samantha. Is the Go Pass something civilians are able to purchase? Is the Go Pass purchased through a specific website? Now, I think that, Tammy, you can handle that question as well and let us know a little bit more about purchasing.
Sure can. So if you look at those 2 prices, the general public price for the one that I chose for this was the 7-day venue, as opposed to buying it through ITR. You're a DOD employee, you can purchase through us. If you're retired, disabled veteran, you can purchase that Go Pass through us. Saves you on the tax, and it gets you a slightly cheaper price, as you can see. If you do it through their website, you're going to pay tax plus their full price.
So I think one of the things that we need to remember right now as we plan our vacations is that we do need to take into account some of the different restrictions with respect to travel and quarantine. So please understand that the information we're giving you is all caveated with checking to make sure that whatever your destination is, that you comply with whatever their current policies are with respect to quarantines. So we're going to go on to the next slide. Thank you, Tammy. I'm ready to go to Hawaii. I don't know about anybody else, but that picture looks fantastic, and I'm ready. But we're going to look at another location, and we're going to do the same type of comparison for each of the 4 different locations we've chosen. The next location that we're going to be looking at is going to be Orlando, Florida. And this has been very popular with lots of us to go to Disney World or Universal Studios. And we have Stephanie from ITR that's going to be leading us in our trip to Orlando.
Hello, thank you, Michelle. So let's go to Orlando, Florida, the #1 state for tourism there, with a family of 4 for 2 adults and 2 children for 7 days and 6 nights using a commercial flight, car rental, and lodging on the Disney property, with visits to Disney World and Universal Studios Orlando. As you can see, I did a comparison between the general public pricing before taxes and the DOD savings, which are completely tax-free. The flights, as you can see, are pretty comparable, flying from Columbus to Orlando International Airport using a commercial flight. Booking car rental in Orlando is also comparable, and I used the American Forces Travel. For lodging, I used the Armed Forces Recreation Center Resort in Orlando, Florida, which is the Shades of Green, which a lot of you might be familiar with. So the Shades of Green is open to retired, active duty, 100% disabled veterans, DOD civilians, and now with their Salute to Veterans program, all military veterans who have received an honorable discharge have opportunity to also vacation with Shades of Green during the months of January and September. So the Shades of Green is located right on Walt Disney World property. It is surrounded by 2 PGA Championship golf courses right there on property. Another benefit you'll get from choosing Shades of Green is that you get extra magic hours where you can enter the park early or leave later. You can also book your fast passes 60 days in advance opposed to 30 days in advance for guests who might not be staying on property. But I do want to note that with the current COVID-19 restrictions, this may or may not change. I do suggest you look for updated information when they do open in July, so I would check their site at that point. I do want to mention that Shades of Green also has the largest standard guest rooms on Disney property, with 2 queen beds, a microwave, a mini fridge, and 6 restaurants located on the resort. The resort also features 2 swimming pools, a hot tub, a cushion splash park, and features a full spa. They have car rental on property in exchange for all of your needs. You also get discounted rates on golf courses. Now, parking is about $11 a night if you do have a rental car. I do want to mention that Shades of Green also offers free shuttle service to and from Disney parks, but they do not participate in Disney Magical Express shuttle service. That looks like I just answered that question. Do they have transportation to the park? Actually, they do from the airport. They offer a shuttle that way as well. And then they have a shuttle that goes from Disney directly back to Shades of Green. So now we want to look, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I'm just going to give people just another minute or two to ask any questions over in the chat
Okay.
room. And again, this is something now that is open to DOD civilians, military, active, and retiree. And then I believe you covered that it's also open to some of our service-connected disabled vets. Is that correct?
That is correct. In the months of January and September.
And that's only in the month of January and September, correct?
Correct.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you, Stephanie, for taking us to Florida. I think now we're going to go a little bit closer, and we're going to ask Tammy if she'll take us to Virginia Beach.
Hello again. So yes, I chose Virginia Beach. I did the airfare. Again, we've got the public as opposed to the DOD. And for the airfare this time, I used the Veterans Travel Resources website. So as you see, it's $236 a price. Isn't too bad. It's only a little bit of a difference. The lodging, I chose cabins. And yes, DOD actually runs several different cabin areas down in Virginia Beach. These cabins actually happen to be the Cax Out cottages. They're $139 a night, and that's for 2 adults, 2 children. Let's see. And if you do a cabin in the same area, those prices are $191 now. They were a little bit cheaper, but they have gone up. And that's before tax. Colonial Williamsburg has opened back up. They have eliminated some of the tickets that they had, so this is based on the day pass. Oh, sorry about that. I think that was on my end. And with the Williamsburg, it's $44.99 for public price before tax. If you go through us to buy your tickets, it's only $35.75, and no taxes added onto that. And then again, you see the car rental, which I did use the Armed Forces website for the car rentals. And the difference is only $384, but that's not including the savings on the tax as well that you would get.
Tammy, I just have a quick question on the lodging. If I remember correctly, there's something very special about this particular lodging in its location?
Oh, yes. So it's actually right at the North Beach on base. You're down from the PX or one of the PXs, and you literally just walk right out, and there's the beach. There was something else, Michelle, and I forgot to write it on my notes.
And if I remember correctly, these have a full kitchen. These are actually townhouses, correct? And they sleep about 4 to 6 people?
Yes, so this particular one holds 5 people. There's 2 bedrooms plus the 1 couch turns into a bed, and it's one of the naval bases there in Norfolk. To answer the question
About which base it was. Do you remember what it was?
Not right off the top of my head. I just know it's one of those naval, the naval base right there, which is sad because my daughter is stationed down there with her husband.
Well, and I do have that information that in some backslides, so I will let everyone know when we publish the slide deck which base this was. Does that answer your question, Karen? I hope. Okay, perfect. Are there any other questions we have with respect to visiting Virginia Beach?
Amy,
If
yes,
not,
Dan Mix also.
yeah,
went
it could
there as well.
be. There are quite a few of them in that area, but as I said, you sent me a picture of the actual facility, so I have that slide. I can and post that and add that to our slide deck.
Okay. There's also an RV lot ran by the military there as well that you could use. I forgot to put that
So now
in.
that we've been to Virginia Beach and we have been to Florida and we've been to Hawaii, our next destination is going to be New York. And so we're going to ask Stephanie to guide us through her vacation that she planned for you in New York City.
Hello, thank you, Michelle. So let's go to New York with a family of 4 again, with 2 adults and 2 children for 6 nights to New York with a drive and a rental car. So we're not going to fly this time, and we are going to use lodging and look at some Explorer passes. So as you can see, I did a comparison between general public pricing, again, before taxes, and the DOD savings, completely tax-free. So American Forces Travel is where you could also get your flight if you do choose to fly or use your rental car. It's about an 8-hour drive, I'd say, from Columbus to New York. To Staten Island is actually where we're headed. Now, this time I was able to get about a $35 savings, so it just depends on where you're going if you do use American Forces Travel. And again, it's based off the type of vehicle that is reserved. So for lodging, I use the Department of Defense lodging using the Navy Lodge on dodlodging.net. And this particular lodge is actually located on the United States Coast Guard installation of New York sector. It's a very nice facility with plenty of free parking on site. It comes with complimentary breakfast, and newspaper is also pet friendly. Each room includes 2 queen beds, work surface, free Wi-Fi, dining set, and a full kitchen. So you could cook or you could dine out at many of the fabulous restaurants they have there in Staten Island, like pizzerias or cozy diners. So Staten Island is about 30 minutes away from Lower Manhattan, so you would be very close to a lot of the events we're going to be looking at. The Navy Lodge is also open to active duty, retired military, and DOD personnel and family. They are priced at about...
Could you just do us a favor, please, and could you talk about some of the different sites that are included in that Explorer Pass? Because I was very surprised at the number of venues that are quite commonly visited and quite expensive that are included in that Explorer Pass.
Absolutely. So I actually chose for this particular trip the Choose 10 option, which would mean that you would get to choose 10 different attractions. Now for New York, they offer about 70 different choices. So I will look at a few of them that you normally would pay a lot more for. So the first one, I would say, is a really good choice that would kind of get you all around New York, is a Big Bus New York Classic Tour. It's a 1-day tour, which would also be included in the Explorer Pass. Normally would be $60, and you would save a bundle getting the package through us. There's also the Statue of Liberty, Ellis Island Ferry that could be used. the 9/11 Tribute Museum and Guided Memorial Tour, the Top of the Rock Observatory, the Radio City Tour. There's a Downtown Liberty Express cruise. That's just to name a few. But like I said, there's about 70 choices that you could choose from. We also have this option available as unlimited, where you could choose the amount of days you want to go. So let's say you only wanted to use 5 days, but you could use each of these attractions unlimited. And you see that there is quite a bit of savings there. Like I have a question here.
Well, there's a great comment from Jennifer, and apparently they've stayed at they've stayed 2 different times at the Navy Lodge, and it looks as though their family really enjoyed it. So I think that's fantastic. It's always nice when you have a testimonial, when someone's used it and it's been successful. So thank you, Jennifer, for giving us that comment. Are there any other questions or comments for Stephanie with respect to New York City? And this was with the car rental, correct? So was there parking involved? Of course, that would give you a discount if you're going to stay on a military installation, of course, and that's a significant savings when you talk about New York City. So that's a fantastic deal. We're going to go on and we're going to talk a little bit about what several of you have had questions about, which is, the how did you do that page. So when we went over all of the different vacations that we planned, these were the different web pages that we utilized. They will be available for you to use when we post the slides. This American Forces travel, one of the things that I think Tammy and Stephanie are going to talk to you a little bit about now that we're at the back side of the presentation is American Forces travel is not just about the actual travel and the lodging to and fro. I think that they also have some opportunities when you look at that particular web page for some events as well. Again, I would always suggest that you check with MWR because we oftentimes have a better price than even the American Forces travel. But could Stephanie or Tammy, could you just talk to that a little bit about what's available through American Forces travel and who can utilize it?
Yeah, so with the American Forces travel, it's open for DOD, military, retirees. There are some things that they're still working on to extend, but you'll see discounted concert tickets, all the way to, I just want to go on a ski trip. So you'll see different things like that. But I do suggest if you go, say, to Virginia, check out their local ITR office as well, because they'll have local stuff that we wouldn't have for their local area. But the DOD travel, you can do the rental cars, almost anything through it. There's even Stephanie can follow up with the cruise lines because she's into cruising, and I think she's got some of that information, and they're working on expanding on offering cruises as well. I got you, Steph.
Thank you, Tammy. So yes, Tammy is correct. American Forces Travel does offer cruise packages along with other vacation options. It is, like Michelle said, through Priceline. It's really good just to get in there and kind of check it out. It is not open to DOD at this point, but for those who are serving in the United States. But for everyone else, it's a really good deal.
Now, speaking of cruises, if I remember correctly, aren't there some cruises that are available as well through MWR? I think that's something that happens periodically. I seem to remember that that's an option as well.
It was an option that we looked at, but we are unable to do this at this time. There are some smaller cruises that are through some of the Explorer passes. It would be like a one-day cruise, but not your typical, 4, 5, 6-day cruise.
Were there any other questions reference some of the different web pages and some of the different vacations that we discussed? So that's a good thing. It's nice to see that we answered your questions and gave you lots of good information. One of the things that I will show you and talk to you about is something that we're doing specifically at MWR, at DSCC. As a result of researching all of the different lodging facilities as well as the camping and the RV facilities, we found that there was a need for something that was a little bit more all-encompassing, is the best way to put it. When you start looking at lodging with respect to DOD, it is a very stovepiped, I think that's the best word to use, stovepipe program with a lot of different separate web pages for the different services that are a little bit confusing and sometimes a little bit hard to maneuver looking at locations. So what we've done and have been working on for quite a while, and it just becomes bigger and bigger every day, we find more places to annotate for you, is we're putting something together that's called DOD Lodging Worldwide. And this will be incorporating every single service, lodging, RV, or camping facility, every MWR, lodging, camping, or RV facility, and it will be worldwide. We're about 3/4 of the way done with this particular spreadsheet. And what it's going to allow you to do is, and it'll be posted on the MWR webpage, is it will allow you to access all of the different facilities based on the state. As I said, right now, all of those different service, lodging, camping, and RV facilities are located in different places on the web. And so what we are doing for you all is we are just organizing and compiling all of that information in a usable format so that you can actually just go on in and take a look at a different state that you're going to go visit, and then you can access and see what facilities are available in that state. We're going to add the map function so that you can look and see where it is in location to whatever your location or destination was going to be. So please look for that to be coming in the near future. We'll be posting it first in a PDF downloadable format, and then later on we'll have the ability to let you do a web page link activated system. So there we go. And I'm sorry because I'm trying to read the comments over at the right at the same time as I'm talking, and obviously I don't do that well. So the web page for the Explorer to Go Pass, I thought that we had put that on our spreadsheet, but if it is not there, it is not. We will add that to the list. Thank you very much for pointing that out to us, William. We will do that so that it is available. It looks like we have another question, reference vacations to Mexico, Dominican Republic, or Puerto Rico. I will let Stephanie talk to that because I'm not sure exactly what her information basis is. Elena, were you looking for us to do a vacation for that like we did the others, or are you just looking for information?
Just looking for the information in case there was something like these countries.
And I'm sorry, if you could type in the chat box, that would be great for me. I'm not sure who that was. Was that Elena? And then savings to Las Vegas. Don, we did not do Las Vegas for this presentation, but Tammy or Stephanie, didn't you look at Las Vegas as a potential for our presentation today? Either one of you?
I did not.
I looked, and they do have city passes for Las Vegas. And for the person that was asking about Mexico, I think there is one location in the city passes for that as well.
And I believe there's a military installation in the area of Las Vegas as well. So I don't have that information right at hand, but I seem to remember that that was something else that was available in that area. So Deborah asked a question, once retired from DOD, are these still available to civilian retirees? And I'm not sure exactly, Deborah, which program you were looking at, but a number of them are available to Department of Defense retirees with respect to the lodging and utilizing MWR facilities. And that would be also the ITR. So that would be Tammy and Stephanie. So Stephanie, can you address that, please, for us?
Yes, I can. Retired DOD civilian retirees should be able to still use services as long as they still have a CAT card that is not expired. And that would still be able to get you to use some of our facilities. Does that answer the question?
So I just want to let you all know that yes, the slideshow will be available in its entirety along with the recording. Both of those things will be posted to the MWR webpage under the seminars archive page. So we're right about at 47 minutes, and you know I always like to make sure that we keep things within our time frame. So if you want, we'll give you just a couple more minutes to ask any more questions. And then we're going to tell you all, thank you very much for joining us. Any more questions that we can answer before we end the presentation? Okay, then. It looks as though we've answered the questions and provided you with enough information that you all are all planning your next vacation, where you want to go, what you want to do. Please remember that this is part of maintaining that resiliency, is planning someplace and explore and to relax. So we encourage you to get out and explore as soon as it's safe and everyone can do that. Thank you for joining us, and we'll say goodbye from MWR. Stephanie and Tammy, say goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Goodbye from MWR.